Let's start here. Hey, good morning, Misfits. It is April 13th, 2020, episode 418 of the Daily Awakening, the Misfit Call. My name's Sean Murphy. I'm your head Misfit, along with an amazing group of souls who we continue to grow, we continue to gather. As we get started, a couple of things. If you're new to the call, welcome, welcome, welcome. Drop an N in the chat so we can throw some love and hearts at you. Because you're part of a unique community right now where we have some fun. We have many awakenings, and we do some things here that most other places won't do, because it's about giving you back your control. It's about helping you stand up for yourself. You stand on your own 2 feet, and yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Louis, great to have you here. Let's see here. So today's Monday. Finally got things squared away with Zoom, that we got the rest of the recording. So that's all good. So I'll be figuring out ways for you guys to have access to that for the Les Brown recording. So we'll do all that. What else is going on? It got cold here in Texas, or colder, right? It's in the 40s, high 40s here now. It was like 80 yesterday. So it's that crazy weather. Don't like it, hang around for an hour, it'll change. But I see somebody's got their hand up here. We're going to go to that in just a second. Make sure you send out your 3 messages of gratitude, of joy, of hope, of peace, of love, of awareness, of thankfulness, of maybe and I love you. Why? Because it gives us place to have more room for more of what we want. So that would be cool. If you get those done, we drop a little D in the chat, and we go from there. So again, if you're new on the call, if this is your first time to the call, you can drop an N in the chat. We usually like to throw out some love to you. Lena's there and Louis is there. Y'all can drop some hearts from them. We appreciate everybody being here this morning. So let's jump off. Let's go right into the, hey, good morning, Rhonda Bird Parker. There she is. Good to have you all here. There's Ralph. Great to have Ralph here. And Dekaya and me and Timka. Awesome to have you all here. Let's jump off. Let's go to a question. I see a hand raised. Let's go to Britnee on line 4. Britnee, good morning.
Good morning. So a couple things, and it's really just realizations. Like, I keep coming to these realizations over and over and over again, and it's crazy, right? Because it's like a couple things. Once you expand yourself and start to walk in love, you literally can't go back, right? You can't go back. It's uncomfortable. It's upsetting to your spirit, right? And I just also wanted to note, and I wanted to say thank you, because I was just thinking about Kaia, Dakaya, and everyone else that got on the call yesterday, and they just had their walls just crumbled down. And I related that to myself, and I was like, you know what, Britt? It wasn't until you started to actually speak out loud and let those thoughts out loud and speak to other people that the walls were able to start crumbling down. So I just wanted to say thank you to those people, and just continue to do that, because y'all jumped on here, y'all started telling y'all story, and y'all broke down so many walls in such a quick amount of time. So for anybody that's just on the calls and y'all get on every day and y'all still feeling stuck, the stuck comes from you not opening your mouth, basically. If I just simply put, it's just that you allow all these negative thoughts and stuff to sit and fester and tumble around in your head, and you got to get them out, right? Because we already know that the feeling is the secret, and there's no better space or safe space than here. Where else would you be able to put this out? Like, stop trying to figure it out by yourself. Do it with the community, because this is what we're here for. Everybody has 10x their lives in a matter of months, a matter of months. And I'm just a walking testimony. I got you on the video, Sean. I've been looking raggedy lately, but I got you. But it's like, look at all these testimonies to sit and just settle. How can you settle? I don't get it. You know what I'm saying? And I do have a question.
Okay.
It's back to that thing about belief, because I was talking to well, Nano had a team call last night, right? And I asked him about like how did you know that I would be a good fit for being on your team? How did you know that I was capable? You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think I did any specific thing or I didn't show no crazy trading results. I didn't show no crazy back office, but I came to him with an open heart, and I was just like, I want to work with you. And he was just very open to that. And he was just basically like, because I believed in you. And it's crazy because it's like, you really do have people that wholeheartedly believe in you. So when you don't believe in yourself, that belief comes through and it pushes you and propels you forward and lifts you up and holds you up as your foundation, even when you didn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, you couldn't do it yourself. You don't know where it comes from. So I guess my question is, because I have such a strong belief for everybody, right? How can I ensure that they are feeling it? How can I, because how can I say this? I don't know how else I can say this, but it's just like I pour out a lot of love, and I'm not 100% sure if everybody's receiving it. I'm not 100% sure if everybody's feeling it. Is that my fault? Do I need to focus on that? Do I need to restructure my approach?
Let me ask you, what kinds of light are there?
Mm, I don't know what that means.
So is there ultraviolet light?
Oh, okay, like that.
Yeah. Light
Okay,
spectrum. Light spectrum. Is there
okay,
black light? Is there black light, right? You go into a club,
yeah,
nothing really seen unless it does what? Unless you're wearing what kind of clothing?
white.
Yeah, unless you're wearing something that reflects is the
Mm-hmm.
opposite of it.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you make sure people see you? Be the light that's worth seeing. Of all of the light spectrum, we see about 2% of the visible, maybe 3% of the visible light spectrum. Can flies and spiders see light spectrum that we can't?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do flies know? It's because we create some reaction or something. They see something, so they move away from us. If you want to create something, but moths are drawn to the flame, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you become the flame that draws people in, where you don't have to do the work? See, it's in that question of asking, how do I make sure people know that I love them? Can that happen in a smile? See, the transition that you're in right now, Britnee, the transition from everybody's quite unique in an interesting way to the transition that now is I'm being unique in a way that I've never been before. That's a transition. That sometimes the vibration gets scrambled. It happens to all of us, right? There's days that you're totally on, and there's days that you're way on. I mean, you are so like on fire. And then there's days that you might not be as bright. You might not be as vibrant. The question becomes is how do you make sure your lighthouse is always seen? How come I can light a match in the daylight and it really doesn't do a whole lot? But boy, if we were all in a dark room together, that one match would be something we'd all be drawn to.
Mm-hmm.
So as you start to vibrate at a different level, as you start to increase your energy, you're going to start to, right, law of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
People around you are going to start vibrating at the same frequency. Now the question is how do you vibrate at a higher frequency? How does your lighthouse be seen in the brightest of days? And that's vibration.
Mm-hmm.
That's people telling your story. right? How do we take up mind space? How do they know I love them? Well, let them know you love them, for one. Because of this change that's taken place through you, it's always been inside of you. So you've let this come out through you. You're finding your feet. You're finding your story. When you showed up yesterday and started talking to us, it changes everything when you have these awakenings, because they're an awakening on top of an awakening on top of an awakening. Like you said, you can't go back. Challenge is it's still fresh to go back. It's still, as much as we don't want to, it's still sometimes a default mechanism. So great question. I mean, that's a question of awakening. How do I ensure, how do I make sure that what they do feel is the feeling I want I want to be exuding? Well, it comes back to this. You got to ask your audience, what's one word you would use to describe me? Because right now there may be words of transition. Because people may always, they may say things to you that's maybe from the old story, but it's a nice way of saying the old story versus this new story, because you'll see the way people describe you differently. You'll see the way people begin to act around you differently. And part of the subconscious is for you is that they're acting differently around you. And it's like, well, why are they acting differently? Because you've taken steps.
I've noticed that too. And I'm
and we're off to the races, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't know why I'm laughing, but no, I've noticed it because so my friend and I, we lived together, and there was a point where for a little bit, like I was kind of down, so it put a damper on our relationship because I just wasn't in the highest vibration. But I knew that I was continuously getting on these calls. I knew that I was actually putting in the work, and I was like, what, let me just stop, because it, it was like okay, there's this, what is the word, aura, this negative aura in the house, and I'm contributing to it. So if I just stop contributing to it, maybe it'll just go away. Because what I used to do, right, before, I was so just inclined, I would just purposely like throw fuel, whatever it is, throw
Mm-hmm.
fuel to the fire. I would just do that, and I was like, wait a minute, stop doing that. And now, literally every day, especially during quarantine, we've been cooped up in the house for a month now together. And every day is literally the best day of our lives because we choose that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, even if there's something that we don't agree on or something like that, it's still very light. And that's because, also she has something to do with it, but it just starts with me, because I was just like, you know what, I just don't want it. I chose joy. I chose joy. And um I've noticed that, other people that have gotten around me, they're a little bit more jovial, a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more inspired, and this is just for me not really necessarily doing anything, in my opinion, because I know that I can do so much more. And every time I get on these calls and every time I talk to you, I'm like, okay, Britt, do more to be seen, do more to be seen. And then I kind of get into, I like retreat a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But every day I get on these calls and I'm like, okay, be seen. I'm gonna share myself with other people, because you just never know. And that way it just radiates through the world, I guess. It's so much easier than we think it is.
Well, and that's the hard part. That's the hard part of having to be there for somebody, for your prospect, right? If there's so many people who believe that if they don't, quote, close somebody on the first sale, they're not doing so good at prospecting. Think of how long it takes us, for those of you that have had awakenings, for those of you that have, quote, crossed over into this world of, oh my gosh, it was always right here. Think how long you had to prospect yourself on the idea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then think about what it takes to be in joy. We're having the best days of our life every day. Every day is just better and better. And you're doing less and less and less. And you're becoming more and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
You're
I
hearing
love it.
deeper. You're seeing deeper. You're hearing things at a different level. You're laughing at a different level. Everything gets elevated. And in that elevation, guess what happens? We move from being the cloud around the mountaintops to being the mountain.
Mm. Mm.
Because we can be seen as a cloud, but the clouds disappear and they change shape and they're always constant this, but the mountain is forever. And then with your emotion, you go from being the mountain to somebody who moves the mountain.
Mm.
So once we take a solid footing, we become the hill, the mountain, we become the entire structure, we become everything that is, and underneath that is just unbelievable masses of stories. But then once we decide that, all right, with the faith of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. So this faith that you have, this connection that you have, all of a sudden you move from being the mountain goat running around on the mountain trying to find the next idea. Let me get the next book. Let me get to the next event. And you're running around. It's like, how do they do all of that? They're so busy. And then you just decide to be the mountain. You are the source.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
And once you realize you are the source, then you can ask for anything. Because who's gonna not listen to a mountain? But this is the challenge we have when we speak to prospects, especially right now. They're running around. They've lost what they lost the mountain they were running on. They lost the mountain they had that they were floating around, and now they've got to come up with a new story. You know how hard it is to come up with a new story? Imagine we've got 69 folks on here. Imagine if I said, okay, for the next 45 minutes, somebody's got to do a training. Some of y'all could do it. Some of you always say, well, how do I make it like Sean's? What do I say? Where do I go? So, okay, yeah, but I'll do it. But all of a sudden, everybody got taken off their mountain going, you got to stay home now. And now they don't know, they lost their story. So what about their story is the same BC, before Corona, and after C? Right? Because the after C will be different than anything we've ever thought of. What's happening right now, the transitions that are happening right now will be like any, we have no idea what's coming out. One of the things that will be coming out of this is people are realizing the need for control. There might be a little less time spent in delusion, right? There's going to be kind of two, yeah, definitely awakened, RC. There's going to be two kinds of two schools that come out of this. One, we're back to normal. I've got my job back, and I can go back to the old thing. And man, going to the movies or doing nothing or barbecuing, this leaving the authority, giving up the authority they had over themselves and putting it back into something they have no control over. Right? The term I've heard people use in the past, sheeple. Oh, we're so glad we're to be back to some kind of normal. Well, the normal is you're going to go, a lot of people are going to go right back to putting their authority, complete authority, in something they have no authority over. Other people are going to be, man, I ain't getting caught with my pants down again. And they're going to be, they will be with tremendous curiosity looking into, how do I start my own business? This side gig thing. And they're going to be looking for people of integrity, people who have got, what did you do during the storm? How were you a safe port during the storm? What was your resume? See, that's the neat thing about social media. They can scroll and they can look and they can see the stories. They can look at things. They can, do y'all realize people can Google you, right? Have you ever Googled yourself to see what comes up? That's your resume. Right? We talk about people Googling the company. Well, don't tell them about the company because they'll Google the company. You know, you want to make sure you this, that, or the other. Well, there's not, you know, some people say bad things about us, or there was a leader that left and they left a little black eye on us. Don't tell them about the company. What do they say about you? Is there anything on you to Google? Well, then I'd change that. I'd put out the 3 steps you've learned in a leadership lesson, the 4 things you learned from Les Brown, the 3 things you did from this, that, or the other. So that when people look for you, they go, oh, there's their resume. That's why sometimes it takes people a while who are of the caliber you're looking for. It takes them a while to figure out whether to join you or not, is because there's not enough other people saying good things about you. So I'd encourage you all to be building your list of testimonials. What do people like about you? What's the one thing they say about you? Listen, if you talk about you, it's bragging. If somebody else talks about you, it's credibility. What are you doing to build your credibility? It's okay to ask. Y'all see, I've asked y'all a few times for testimonials. Some of you have done them. But if I'm the person, hey, listen, you got to say something nice about me. I'm waiting on your testimony. I just ask. I'm not going to push you. So my question then becomes, when people start to fall in love with your joy, when people start to show up for you, when prospects start to ask you, because you're going to see things change here, what do you do? You're going to hear that a lot more in the coming months when we can finally start talking to each other. Hey, what did you do during the thing? How did you survive? Right? When you hear people from plane crashes and you hear the stories about, I'm trying to remember the plane crash in the Andes where a few people survived. They asked them, what did you do? How did you do it? And you hear the stories and you're like, I'd never do that. The guy we want to know the story of the guy whose arm fell into the rock 120 hours or something. The movie's called, and he cut his arm off. Why does everybody want to talk to him? Because he's got a story. People are going to be asking you when we start meeting back up, what did you do? What was it like? How was it for you? And you're going to find there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be curious as to how you got through this. Another reason why journaling would be very important right now. Because you've had to do things in the last 30 days, 40 days that you've never done before. But do you have a record of it? Do you write down the feelings of it? Because that's part of your resume. And somebody asks you how you got through it, what's the transition? There's always a beginning, middle, and end. What's your story? What's your book? When you ask somebody, how did they get through it? And they go, I don't know. We were scared. Did you ever think about doing anything? Are you looking to do anything a little different to make sure you've got a little bit more secure footing when if this ever happens again? And it will, right? Especially with this particular virus. Because as soon as we start getting back, there'll be hotspots that pop back up again and they'll lock down cities. They just will. Right? There'll be a little bit more immediate enforcement. And you know what? People will be okay with that. Why? Because we look at the numbers in New York and Chicago, in Florida. It's like, I ain't doing that. And we'll self-quarantine. But there will be moments like that. It's just, right? You create the plane, you create the plane crash. You create the car, you create the car crash. This thing pops up, you've created the echoes that's going to happen going forward. Questions, comments, thoughts? Bukunmi? I know I'm saying that wrong. Please say it correctly for me.
It's Books, but it's my full name.
Oh, Bokum. Okay. Hey, Book. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, not many people know my full name, so yeah. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone? I hope everyone's good. Thank you so much for Les Brown's call. Honestly, it was so incredible. Like, I literally afterwards, I was like, I should just sit there for a moment. I was like, whoa, what just happened? Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question, please, about yesterday.
Okay.
I heard you say something really quick about forgiveness, and it kind of like stopped me because, okay, so I'm not like a petty person. I'm not very much like I hold things, but there's certain something that's happened, and I just can't let it go. And I thought, okay, no, like I heard it on your call, but I thought, okay, no, like forget about it. And then on the prayer call, in our not even in my team, but she's someone in America, just a prayer call every day at 12 a.m. Eastern time. And I jumped on it, and she was talking the whole time about forgiveness. And I was like, okay, this is a bit weird. I was like, okay. And the same person two people popped into my head. And I've told myself I've forgiven them. I've sent texts, we've talked about it. But I just can't, like, I just want to let it go so much. But there's something that's stopping me. And it's just annoying because I feel like it's holding me to them. Because I feel like they've forgotten what they've done to me. But I don't seem to be able to forget what it's done. And it's just so annoying. Like, I just want to forget it, but I just can't seem to forget it. So I wanted to ask you, please, like, how do you actually forgive someone? Because as much as I've said the words to them, I don't feel like my heart was truly there. So how do I place my heart in a position to actually truly let it go?
Have you forgiven yourself?
What, for letting them into my life?
Mm-mm. Just the feeling that you had of anger or frustration that caused you to say, I forgive you. Because who apologized?
I apologize because I just wanted to let it go.
Okay. Did they apologize?
Okay, so one of them apologized, but I just never thought it was sincere.
Right. So why are you drinking the poison, hoping they apologize?
I don't know. Ah,
This is the story we tell ourselves, right? Have you ever had somebody? Do you have any little kids around you, nieces, nephews, brothers, sisters, anything like that?
I have two younger brothers.
Okay. They ever tell you they were gonna do something for you and they didn't?
Yes.
And do you hate them with the same vigor of this other person that you it just drives you crazy? This other person you haven't forgiven them or forgiven yourself about?
No.
How come you can forgive your brothers?
Because it's almost like they don't exactly know what they've done.
Exactly. So, and they don't know any better. You can't expect them to do, if they said they were going to do it, fly you to the moon tomorrow, you wouldn't be sitting here going, they lied to me. They don't even know what they're doing. Can you look at the people that you're holding this story with and go, you know what? They were the best they could be at the moment they were. They were perfect. My response was perfect at that moment. I now see things differently and I get to choose things differently now, but that's an old story. Turn the page. What would happen if you gave up the old story?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, let me ask you, what would you like to have happen if you gave up the old story? How much
See,
of your day would be free if you didn't have to think about that old story?
A lot of my day.
Yeah. So would it be okay if you got a lot of your day back?
Yes.
Who would you send messages of love, of gratitude, of peace to if you weren't thinking about that stuff?
I would send them to my friends.
Okay, so I would send out 100 messages of love and gratitude and just how grateful you are, because every moment that you spend in this old story, you're missing out on the friends that do love you. Is it okay? Do you want to keep missing out on the friends you do have right now? The friends that are really your friends, the friends that haven't disappointed you, that haven't made you hold on to this story, the friends that deserve your time, right? You go where your time is deserved, not where it's needed. You think it's needed that you keep telling this old story and fixing this old story. If I keep thinking about it, law of attraction says one day they're going to apologize. One day they're going to realize what they did. They will never realize what they did, because all you keep doing is bringing up the idea that maybe someday they'll realize it. The universe doesn't have to make them realize it, because all it is a story you keep telling that one day I hope they realize it. What if the story's over? What if you spent time sending your friends love, gratitude, joy, appreciation, joy? You wouldn't have time for that old story.
Oh God.
Is it okay if the old story goes away? Just if it just goes away without any fanfare, without any fireworks. It's like, you know what? It served me well. It's kind of like an Uber. It's kind of like a London taxi cab. It just dropped you off and you didn't sit there and go, yeah, but the guy didn't thank me for riding in his car. You get out of the car and close the door and don't really give a rat's patootie. Off he goes. What if this story just left right now? What would be the new story?
I just, because one of them is meant to be my cousin, and
That's okay. But how old is the story?
it's so long.
Okay. It's so long ago. But who's the one that suffered the whole time? You, and the part of the frustrating thing is you may feel they don't suffer. They thought it was over. Is it okay if you begin to love you more, because that's been keeping you from having joy in your heart? Since this story started, has it rained where you live?
Yeah.
And did your life change because of the rain?
No.
Well, it did. You didn't go outside and run around like you would normally run around in the sun. Has the sun come out?
Yes.
And when it rained, did the sun go pout in a corner and say, I'm never coming out again until you apologize to me, rain? No. No, of course it didn't. That'd be silly. The sun went, okay, you guys won't see me today, but I'll make rainbows. So could today be a rainbow for you? Did you ever see a rainbow and go, wow, that's beautiful? Maybe even take a picture of a rainbow? Ever taken a picture of a rainbow?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's rare.
Yeah, it's very rare. So so what if you had a rainbow today? Would you take a picture of it?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd ask you to take a selfie of yourself right now, because this is your rainbow. Today's your rainbow. It'll show up. You know why a rainbow shows up, right? Because somewhere it's still raining. But where you're at, it's not. And the sun's at just the right place for it to refract the light and send its rays so that the sun isn't so bright, but you can still see the rainbow. So would it be okay if today's your rainbow?
Yeah. It would
Yeah.
be okay.
Who would you show this rainbow to?
My mom.
Okay.
They
And
have the
listen,
same. They have the same. They have the same problem with her.
okay. So can you just listen? How many of you would say Books is this strong woman that you've heard on the call? Just drop it in the chat. Can you read the chat while you're talking to me? So you start seeing all these people who are dropping definitely. Oh my God, beautiful. See, we've seen your rainbow. Can a rainbow be out and we not see it?
No.
If we're not looking the right way. Right? If we're looking in the sun, can we see the rainbow? Usually not. We got to be looking, the sun's got to be at our back. Is it okay if you turn around and see a new story? And listen, sometimes, you ever see one of those real faint rainbows?
Yeah, like it's almost not there.
Yeah, it's almost not there. But then when you adjust for it and when you're told, no, it's right over there, and you know what a rainbow's supposed to look like, and then you go, I don't see, oh, I see it. Maybe, just maybe, you're just starting to see the hint of the rainbow. And here's the good news. Once we've seen a rainbow, we kind of know what to look for the next time, don't we?
Yeah.
So would it be okay that if today's your first rainbow, that you get to see them on a regular basis? Because this story that's old, this story that's sat there, this story that you've dealt with, it's a big story. It's an old story. There's lots of pages in that book, isn't there?
So many pages. So many pages.
So what if you decided to take the pen today and write the next chapter? How would it start off? Would this chapter starting today still be about them, or would it be about you now?
It would be about me.
So maybe the first line of this chapter starts off with something: today I get to choose. See, you know why I know today's a new day? Because you let us see your name for the first time. You let us hear your name for the first time. Because it was always too hard for people to say your name. It's always too much. I'll just give you the shortened version. Your life doesn't deserve the shortened version, the easy version for us. That was a gift given to you. That is the name by which you are known. Not the easy name. Your life has been difficult. Your life has had challenges. I'd be curious to know if there's any meaning behind that name.
Yeah, it has. Sure, you're making me cry too much. Oh, I was not prepared to cry.
None of us ever are. But you're prepared for joy, aren't you? Sometimes the path is a little bit different. So you're just having your own rainbow today. So what's the story behind? Tell me the strength behind your name.
It means God has blessed me.
It means what?
God has blessed me.
God has blessed you.
Yeah.
When is it okay for you to receive that?
I want to receive it every day.
Okay. But when? There's only a couple of times in the world. There's either now or not now.
I want to receive it now.
Cool. And how about now? Want to receive it now?
Yes.
Okay. How about now?
Yes.
Still now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So there's a handful of nows. Is it still okay now to receive that God has blessed you?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
See what happens when you start to realize it? Your body changes. You start to laugh. Because now you still want it now?
Yes.
You can't when you realize your name, every time it is said a blessing over you. So do me a favor, y'all. There's 79 folks. Whoever wants to participate and send a blessing to say it. Is it Bukumi?
Bikumi.
Bukumi. Just type her name in the chat. Just type that full name in the chat. Bukumi. Just type it in the chat. Don't need to do anything else. Just type her name in the chat. And look at all these blessings. All these people reminding you of the blessings God has blessed you. So you were given that name because the day that you forget how blessed you are, all you have to do is say your name and you'll be reminded that God has blessed you. Do you still want it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Now.
Good. Look at how many people have typed your name. They didn't know it to becoming professors of blessings.
You can just continue to try in vain not to accept it, not to receive it.
Sure. And that's the old story going, well, yeah, but they can't love you that much. They don't even know you. The fact is we do know you. The question is do you know you? I think today's your awakening.
I think it is too.
Yeah. Is it okay if you have your rainbows today?
Yes, it's okay.
Is it okay if you remember God has already blessed you?
Yes.
And who gave you your name?
My father.
Yeah. Because if the day that he's not standing in front of you, the day that he's not always with you, the day that you may not see him for a day or a moment, he always wants you to remember that God has blessed you. And if that's the truth, if that is the truth of that name, and I believe it is, what challenges do you have to turn over to him? And when you decide that, just know that you have this blessing. You don't have to worry about it anymore. You don't have to be the one that, what WWJD? I don't know what Jesus would do. All I need to know is that if I give it to him, things are pretty much okay now. Because I know that whenever he had a problem, all he did was ask his father. So do me a big favor. Sit quietly for just a second, but take a couple of big breaths in. Center yourself. And when you breathe in, faith and courage. Exhale like a tailpipe on a lorry. Fear and doubt. Black smoke coming out. Don't worry about what happens to the black smoke. The earth will take that and turn it back into the next breath you breathe of faith and courage. We just got to get it out of our body. Fear and doubt knocked on the home of faith and courage. Faith and courage answered, and no one was there. Today's your day of your rainbow. How are you feeling now?
I feel a lot calmer than I did this morning.
Excellent. Let's be very clear. You did that. From the question you asked, to the tears you shed, to the stories you opened up to telling us the meaning behind your name, you knew all of this. I just wasn't going to accept the old story, and I asked you more questions. I didn't guide you. I guided you, but I didn't tell you anything that you didn't already know. And that's where the pain lies. Ah, I know this. I knew that. Good. Then let's do that. How about now? You want God's blessing now?
Yes, no.
Okay, good. Still now? Now's good?
No.
Good, good. And one more check. Now's good?
No.
Okay, good. RBP, could you speak a little into her?
Forgiveness, man, that's a booger. You know what? Huh.
That's a
He
technical
asked me,
term.
yeah, he asked me to speak because I've had to deal with this over and over and over and over again. And what you just did, walking through that, letting go of the poison, putting the poison bottle down, that's amazing. It's very hard to do. The poison bottle will want to jump up into your hands all day today. And you're going to have to just put it right back down. It's a conscious effort until it's not. It's a conscious effort until it's not. And it can happen really quickly, or it might take some time. I don't know what's happened there, but when Sean mentioned something before speaking, I think he said it to Britnee, and it applies to you too. Whenever he said, maybe having faith like a mustard seed is so you can become the mountain instead of trying to move the mountain. And then you can move the mountain wherever you want to because it's you. And maybe that faith like a mustard seed is what you need in this moment of forgiveness. And instead of seeing the hurt as the mountain, you become the mountain. And you move where you want to go, and you don't worry about the forgiveness anymore. You're the mountain. You're the strength. You've got everything you need in you. I would love to sit, and one day I will, in the courts of heaven and hear how they think about the way we think sometimes. Because I think we get it all wrong a lot of the times. But through grace and mercy, he still loves us. And then to hear the meaning of your name, it's a wonder you've been pushed down and kicked down, because you are this amazing ray of light. And now being able to let go of that old story, you're going to sit into that and you're going to feel it totally, totally differently. There's going to be moments where this test comes back around. Remember, the lesson continues until the lesson is learned. And this test is going to come back around, and it's going to see if you really have allowed yourself to let this go. And the hardest part is what Sean said, forgiving yourself. There's some decisions I made in relationships with people that one of the hardest things to do was to forgive myself for allowing them so much of my attention, and forgive myself for allowing them to cross my path, but then flipping the script and going, you know what? Because they did, I've learned how to forgive myself now. And the tears and the worries you were all about, let them go, let them come out. And we displace that and say it's tears against them, when in reality, it's tears against ourselves for allowing them to take our joy and to take our happiness and to take our moment. So Sean just walked you through a very powerful, powerful thing. Whenever he's done that for me, it's not unusual that I have to do that a whole lot that day, maybe the next coming month, because it's going to keep coming back around and coming back around. But here's what I do know, and we all saw it. The strength you have inside of you is undeniable. And you have those videos that you laugh uncontrollably, and you laugh and dance and jump, and you do all these crazy fun videos. I would encourage you to challenge yourself to do one of those crazy fun videos at least once a day and post it. At least. Every time this feeling creeps up on you, and if you don't want to post them, send them to me, because I love your videos. They make me laugh. They do. I've told you that before. Send them to me. Send me, if you get one every hour, send it to me. Girl, I need some laughter every hour, but post them, because this is what I've learned is through all the unforgiveness and the hate that I've battled through, that I've held on to, the more I give away myself. And that's why I've challenged myself to do a video a day if I can't be quiet anymore. Every time I do that, more comes in. And it's more joy. And I get people messaging me and talking to me, and people I haven't seen in 20 years. I want to connect with you. I love your joy. I love your laugh. I love your smile. You're so much fun. And all that hate and forgiveness is just, if there's any remnants, is swept away. It's cleaned out like spring cleaning. So I'm going to challenge you, if you really, really want to step out of this, and hear that question, if you really want to step out of this, do something you've never done before. Do one of those joyful videos every single day. And you can even post, I don't really feel like doing this, but I'm going to do it because I need it. My heart needs it. And somebody else out there needs to see me do it. Or you can say, there is this crazy woman on our call who wears a pink robe and always shows up in her PJs, and she challenged me to do it, and I'm just going to prove to her that I can. And you can post it. Or you can blame it on Sean. You can blame it on somebody. There's, for a while, if you go back for the past year, I have a lot of posts blamed on Sean because I wasn't brave enough to blame him on myself. So for a while, people thought, why do you do all these things this man tells you to do? I don't know. He just makes me do them. So go figure out a way to do one of those videos every day so more joy can come in. And then write down in your journal what it felt like before the video, during the video, and after the video. Can you do that?
I accept the challenge. Yes, I can.
Yeah, you do. Oh,
Yes, I will. I will.
You make the world brighter for me. When I have a moment to scroll through Instagram, it's like every single time that I actually have a moment, you're one of the people that passes my eyes. So now, knowing that every time I get on there, I'm going to get to see one of your videos. How are you feeling now?
I feel so much better. I feel so much better.
Good.
Thank you
This
so
is where
much.
you deserve to be.
Yeah. I mean, I have cried so much and my nose is running so much, but I do feel better. Thank you so much.
That's awesome.
Thank
I love you.
much. I love you too. Thank you. I love you too, Sean.
Oh, I assume that. So, but I'm glad to hear it. So I love you. Folks, this is what happens inside of all of us. And when we hear somebody who has the courage to share their story, we go, they're a lot like me. I'm a lot like them. This is what your prospects go through. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever prospected and had somebody break down in tears while you're prospecting them. I have. Shocking if you could imagine that. But most people have this fear inside of them. So your job is just to sit there quietly and be aware of your voice. Are you still talking to the high thing? And whenever you talk, you just get it out there and you're trying to just give them some value and you want to help them and you see that they're in pain and you're like, you don't have to be that way in your head and you're going, I can fix this. I can fix this. Sometimes you just need to use your radio DJ voice and listen and say, hey, tell me more. Let's go to Nano for our last question of the morning. Nano, good morning.
Good morning, Sean. How
Good
are
morning, brother. Hey,
Good
listen, just in case you hadn't heard, thanks for all your help with the Les Brown interview, man.
Thank you so much. I actually wanted to talk to you about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Cause I never got I got everybody's take on it, but I never got yours. I never got like, what was your answer? Like, what did you think about the question that I know you told me you loved the question that I asked, but I never got, what did you think about what he told me? And since you know me and since we had a conversation not too long ago, you know, I wanted to know what was your take on what he said about it, because yesterday I was trying to dissect it and I had a journal entry, about a 3-page journal entry on it about the enemy within and everything that he said. So I wanted to see what was your take on everything that he said, because I really want to break it down and I want to be able to see it from multiple perspectives. So what was your take on what he said, you know, to my question?
So here's the reality. If you go back and ask your subconscious, was the question for him or the question for you?
It was for me.
You sure? Do you remember what you said when I asked you if you'd like to ask Les a question?
Yeah.
What'd you say? What was your first answer? I got to think about what?
A question.
Right. I got to ask him a good question.
Mm-hmm.
What would have been a great question to ask him?
The one I asked him.
There's a better one.
You know, the other question I was going to ask him was, how does he create the feeling for people that people never forget?
Yeah, that's the question you wanted to ask.
That was the first question.
Yeah.
And then I was like, nah. And then I thought about that one.
That's a great question, but let me ask him a good question that make him feel good and make me look good. You know, I love you. It was a brilliant question. It was a great question. But that's not the question you wanted to ask.
I wanted to ask both, actually.
I know. But there were rules, right? Well, I say there were rules, but because we had, what's the one question you wanted to ask? It was a great question on legacy. But once we got through the call with Les, you understand that most of the things that happened to him was a shift in feeling. Standing behind the white line, his mom clapping her hands. That one brought him to tears. So I think that's a great question. Now that you engaged with Les in time and space and John Leslie in time and space, what would the answer to that first question be? What would you do? How do you create the feeling that lasts? How do you get people to walk away and stay in a state of love from the pill they took called you?
And now that I think about it, and the way, now that you put it like that, his answer to me and John's answer to me was kind of a answer to my first question, because they created that feeling within me.
Exactly. That's why I had you ask your first question to me again just now, because I knew there was we had not talked about this. Nano and I had not talked about this. This is him asking it live, but this is me knowing Nano enough to know there was another question he wanted to ask.
Yes, there was.
And you saw him when I said that, the smile on his face going, Durham, how's he know that? So, but now that you asked the question again, listen, when God says, I love you, doesn't that answer all the questions?
Absolutely.
So when John Leslie gave his and Les gave his, doesn't that answer any question you could have asked?
Absolutely.
Because it wasn't a how answer. They were why answers. They were now answers. Either question you asked, he said the answer was you.
Yep.
Whether it be action or feeling, the three for that John Leslie said, wake up, wake up, wake up. So How do you wake up so much that when people leave you, they can't fall asleep again? Oh, we got the coffee put down on that one. How can you wake up with such energy that nobody can sleep around you? There's people out there when they do trainings or they do calls, and they would have a conversation with books, and they'd go, okay, so that's enough for today, because they don't know their own source. They think they did that. But Kunmi did that on her own. I didn't have to do anything. I literally didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to give her any of my energy. I didn't have to feel her pain. I didn't have to do any of that. But my question then becomes, because the question you asked is, how do you have people walk away with your feeling? I'm guessing that today there's a good chance that she's going to hear me say, now, how about now? How about now? You want to smile now? But I'm not even going to be with her. But yet I can't leave her. How do you get to take up brain space, mind space? More importantly, how do you move it into the heart? How do you love them so much that they got to walk away and they're carrying a bucket full of love that they don't know what to do with, and they'll eat on it like a big thing of cotton candy all day long? Gratitude usually does that. Hey, before we get started, has anybody told you thank you? Just be in that state of gratitude. Guess how long I get to thank you for your help with Les's call?
Forever.
How long do you think most people would thank you? Yeah, not so long. If anybody's ever done something wonderful for you, you get to thank them all the time. Why do I have to wait on you to do something else for me to thank you? Well, yeah, but we did that call 2 years ago. Well, didn't it serve you well then? Yeah. So why would you ever stop thanking him for it? That's what I ask my bride every day if she'll marry me. Yeah, she did it 20 years ago, but I probably should check in again, don't you think? Shouldn't I remind her that I still would like to marry her? Some mornings you get the hand. Yeah.
It was a wake-up moment for me too. So it's like, I know these moments are huge, and these moments could turn into, even bigger moments. So, that's why I'm working on finding out, this answer, what really the message in the bottle was, so I could get it, because I know that these moments are awesome. These moments lead to huge breakthroughs. And like you said, I could be thanking you forever for a moment like this, because this could be the moment that caused me to go and, have a big major breakthrough within my organization or within my business or my life in general. So just making sure that I truly understand.
But be aware, you said something very important. This could be a moment that would be the breakthrough. Isn't every moment part of the breakthrough? That just happen to be moments that are now stacking. But every moment is part of this next breakthrough. Even the shitty moment that's about to happen someday, somewhere, something, isn't that part of the same moment? Don't you? And this is where we lose our momentum. We forget to be grateful for the rain days, for the flat tire days. We forget to be grateful for those, going, oh my God, this is part of my breakthrough. This is part of the break up to break through. This is all part of it. This is all part of it. The Les Brown, I got to ask Les Brown a question. 25 years old with John Leslie, and I get a reply back from John Leslie, and Les thinks it's so important that John speaks to me. He says, John, tell him. That's a great moment. And then there's been a crappy moment. That's a great moment too, because that's all part of the next moment. It's when we lose gratitude for what's happening that we lose gratitude for what's happening. This awakening that happens that we go through. It's all part of it. It's all part of it. And when we grasp that, when we look at, oh my gosh, that happened, disappointment I missed, or they didn't show up, or they didn't do this, I'm so grateful, because it's the test. Are you ready for the next level? But when we start to go, ugh, you won't believe so-and-so showed up and I had to work late, or this happened, the other, they cut back my hours. Thank you. Right? Dr. Wayne Dyer used to say when people would get fired, he goes, now they got 360 degrees of opportunity, but they can only look at the one that's behind them. You did something, I promise you, on Saturday, that no 25-year-old in the world was able to do. I promise you, there's not another 25-year-old on Saturday that got to ask Lesk a question. I don't know the rest of his interviews, but they just I'm just going to. So you're one of 7 billion people. How could you not be like totally? And you are. I get it. You are. But you think you are because of inside of your organization. You got unique. Listen, it's when you look at the marketing, everybody's photo, 95% of the photos that were taken were with you in it. And I love that. Because first of all, I said, y'all get your cameras ready because somebody's coming up. I wanted to give them time to make sure they could be in this moment with you. Most of those photos are gone now, but did you save all of those photos?
Yeah, I have a lot of them.
Good. Because that's all part of your story now. That's all part of your story, what everybody else. So you gave everybody else the chance to be with you in that moment. Here's the question. Can you give everybody a chance to be with you in this moment? That's the thing that cracks me up. You're still the same person, but there ain't as many photos today because you ain't with Les. How do you make that? How do you make those photos mean even more by being with them?
Great question.
Did you type a response to most of the photos when you shared them?
So majority of them, yeah, there was a lot of them.
Okay. Well, it doesn't matter if there's a lot of them. I thank God God's got eyes for 7 billion people.
Sean, can I offer Nano
Sure.
an observation that may lead to a clue to how to answer his questions, how to create, I think your question was how to create the feelings in people. Was that right, Nano?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I don't know if anybody noticed.
That was it.
Okay. Well, I don't know if anybody noticed, but when Sean was dealing with Britnee, he created an image of a mountain with some clouds around it. And when he was working with Bukomi, he ended up linking her future days to a rainbow. Metaphors are the way we think. We think in terms of this is like that. That's like something else. If you're able to weave the right kind of metaphors into a story that resonates with that person that you're dealing with, they won't forget it. I'll never forget Les Brown's story about his first chance to become an announcer on a radio station. I hear his words, "Mama, turn on the radio. I'm about to come on the air." I'll never forget that. I laugh every time I hear it. It's such a great story. But so I guess what I'm offering is that if you can think of a way, if you can create an image, a metaphor, a mini story, a metaphor is a mini story. This is like that. Your future can be like a rainbow. I might have gone a little further with Bukomi and suggested, well, what are you going to notice in your future that's going to remind you that there is a rainbow out there and that maybe you want to step into it? And what's that rainbow going to feel like? You know, it's going to feel like a nice warm shower. That's a metaphor. So if you help people enhance their own metaphors, if you help them grow their metaphors, help them mature their own metaphors in a way that it resonates with something that's resonates with an old story, with an old problem or an old love, but it's something that they won't forget. You can literally paint their future, help them paint their future for them. You can't do it for them, but you can guide them and you do it by putting out a menu of metaphors for them to choose for. Is your preferred future more like a day on the beach? Or would you prefer to be trying to climb Mount Everest because you love how your muscles feel when you're working them? So you just might think about when you're working with a prospect, if you throw out a menu of things for them to consider, which they can build into their own story, their own new story, that it might help. I don't know. It's just, I just know that that's the way we think. We think in terms of metaphors. It's the way the brain operates.
Awesome. And it's true. You know, if I asked you to think of your room right now, you don't see BED and BLANKET or PICTURE. You see all of the images. We think in images. So that's very powerful. Does that help, Nato?
Yeah, that helps. Dana always, makes me step out of my boundaries of my mind. I remember he helped me had that big first breakthrough back in July. So Dana always has some good stuff. I like that. Put those metaphors together.
Yep. Cool.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you, brother. And then we'll go to Anne, and then I've got a call I got to get ready for. And go ahead, Anne, in the UK or in London.
Hi, Sean.
Good morning.
Good morning. I don't know. I was feeling some type of way this weekend, and I haven't come to a resolution just yet. And I was wondering if I could just talk it over
Sure.
and get your perspective.
Absolutely.
So like the last couple of times we've spoken a little bit about the kind of old stories that people have spoken over me and the kind of feelings I carry. And this weekend, I just felt like I wasn't moving forward in my business. And the big reason was the kind of fears that I held on to, the things that I believe about myself from other people's opinion. And I knew that I had insecurities and I had to work on them. And I just didn't know what to really do and how to move forward. And then I talked to my parents about it. And then I felt like a big kind of burden was taken off my shoulders. And normally when I speak to my parents, they don't really understand my viewpoint. So it normally makes it worse than better. Okay. But this time I felt like I was relieved. And I feel like the reason I felt like that was the emotions that I was feeling from the past were that of being unsupported through things that I experienced in life or things that I was going through. And I guess, I don't know, I wanted to make sure that this time, this new journey that I was going to embark upon or take was supported by my parents, if that makes sense. But I don't know if that's the kind of conclusion or if I've made that up in my head.
Right. So if they don't support you, what changes?
Nothing, except that I will go back to like an internal struggle.
Okay. So in order to accomplish the goals you have set forth, God forbid, so I'm going to make it very drastic, right? Because remember the 3 questions: permission to help, make you feel uncomfortable, take you out of the okay. So this one could be number 2. Let's say a month ago they passed away.
Yeah.
That can't happen. Do your dreams stop?
No.
Okay. So can they still be here and not support you?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the worst case scenario. That'd be the worst case scenario. They're still here, not support you. So how do you find the drive inside? What changes in your story if they no longer can support you?
I have to support myself.
Okay. And do you have the courage and the faith to do that?
Yeah, I've done it before.
Excellent. So it'd be better if they did, right?
Yeah.
So what if you had to make space, because right now the story is maybe they won't.
Yeah.
What if the story is maybe they can't?
But I don't understand why they can't support me.
Do you know David Kogan?
No.
He doesn't support you. How come you weren't sleepless last night because of that? He's a buddy of mine. He supports me, but I doubt he'd support you because he doesn't know you. That's the way he is. How come you weren't sleepless last night? How come you didn't call me this morning and ask me about David Kogan?
Because he doesn't really have a part in my goals or dreams or...
So decide, right? Epictetus said, decide what you have control over in your circle of influence. Decide what's outside of your circle of control, and you'll never have another bad day.
Okay.
Because would it be fair to say, if the law of attraction works, do you believe in the law of attraction, or at least the concept of it?
Yes, I do.
So if you do, and I believe you do, then aren't your parents performing perfectly?
In terms of what?
Law of attraction.
But by having them not supporting me, doesn't that attract more fear and distraction?
Well, no, but you're creating, they can only vibrate out to you what you're looking for.
That's true.
So what if all of a sudden today they started to believe in everything you did? What would change?
I think I would feel more confident about myself.
Cool. So just, you're telling yourself an old story they don't believe, and you've been attracting that, and they've been performing perfectly. Wouldn't you give them the Academy Award for not supporting you?
Yeah.
So what if you now said, okay, we need to change your script, right? If you've ever seen a comedy show called like Whose Line Is It Anyway, where they say, okay, I want you to perform this scene this way now, right? And they were medieval this, and now they're pop stars, and they got to do the same scene, but they got to do it with a different persona. What if now all of a sudden your parents were the greatest supporters ever? It'd take them a while to learn the new script, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So what if you could say to them every day, thank you for supporting me? What if you just said in your head, you know what? They're the most supportive people on the planet for me. My guess is you probably haven't said that line in your head in a while.
No.
So if you're going to tell yourself a lie, why not tell yourself a better truth?
Wow. Okay.
Because it's all about vibration.
Yeah.
What's changed? Something just changed in your body. The fact that you actually heard that line and you go, well, maybe they are supporting me. Something changed in your body. What changed? What did you hear change? What did you feel change?
I mean, I know that they support me, but in the way that they think that they support me.
Well, the way that you gave them the script to support you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's also about the meaning you attribute to your experience too. So, for example, what if you stepped back from your experience and said to yourself, gee, I'm grateful for them giving me the opportunity to learn to stand on my own 2 feet.
Yeah.
You can always step back and make a better meaning, a better explanation of it, a new story for yourself about it that works for your favor.
Yeah.
It's called going meta, stepping outside of your experience and making a comment on it that serves you.
So what would the news story be?
That my parents do support me, and that my goals and dreams depend on me and no one else.
Yep. Can you picture them in the front row of your story, in the front row, cheering you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just again, change the vibration. You heard it happen for books. You heard it happen for Ashley. You've heard it happen for Britnee. You heard Britnee you were one of the first ones on the call, but you heard Britnee, right? She's
Yeah.
like, I can't believe I can't believe that everybody's not running around in love. It's like the easiest thing.
Yeah.
And every one of us is looking at our speakers going, who said that? Right? Okay, it's now she's a reformed love addict, and she's like, everybody should be in love. This is stupid. Now it's like, I'm gonna love them to death. I'm just gonna hug them. I'm gonna hug it out of them, and I'm gonna love them, and I'm gonna love them. Right? It's like that one of those cartoon characters, and I'm gonna love you, and I'm gonna hug you, and I'm gonna love. Where did George go? Where does George go? Where did George go? Dear George, I love George. This is about your state. This is about your energy.
Yeah.
Can you stay in a higher state? Can you stay in that highest of states?
I think that's what bothers me as well, because I'm working on my energy levels, and I've tried meditating. Well, I haven't tried, like I am trying every day. I meditate, I read.
Just say I'm doing.
Oh, I am meditating. I am reading, and I'm affirming every day.
Okay.
But for the first couple of days, I was in such a high frequency. But lately I felt like my mood is affected a lot. And I tried to take myself out of it, but it's been that like battle. Like I'm forcing myself to believe that I'm happy rather than me being happy, if that makes sense.
Sure, absolutely. Tell me a funny story that you remember.
A funny story.
Mm-hmm. You and a girlfriend or somebody where you just absolutely couldn't stop laughing.
I mean, this is probably not really funny, but I was like, I've got a video.
It's already funny. That just set the stage for it to be funny.
I mean, no, because my friend was videoing me, and I was like laughing, like crying, laughing. And
what were you laughing about?
The fact that I just, it was because I'm a teacher. So I was talking about one of my students and how he goes around just hating like people that I talk to, and how he likes to have that kind of control where he thinks that his teachers belong to him. So I was talking about that, and then me and the librarian were talking about something, and he interrupted. And because the librarian stopped him, he kind of felt emasculated, I would say, and threw the chair on the floor. This is not a funny, I don't even know why I was laughing at this. He threw his chair on the floor, got up, left, and then I sort of had to go after him and make sure that he was okay. But I was telling this story to my friend in this kind of like dessert place that we had. And I was just like crying, laughing, and she recorded it. And I don't know, I must have been tired. But I was just telling her the story about how he's just, he goes around hating people. I don't know why I was laughing. Seriously, this story's not even funny. But yeah, I mean, I still have that recording. And every time I look at it, it makes me laugh of how much I was laughing. But
right.
Yeah.
So I'd watch that. Change your state.
Yeah. Yeah, I've tried to watch a lot more funnier things recently, just like comedy programs and stuff like that. And I've tried to listen to audiobooks.
So I hear a lot of trying, but I also hear doing.
Yeah, so I am listening to audiobooks to kind of maintain my state of emotions.
Right.
And I am watching.
What's your
more.
favorite audiobook?
Well, the one I'm reading right now is really good. It's Becoming by Michelle Obama.
Okay. What's one of the foundational business books that you like Think and Grow Rich, or?
Yeah, that's what I'm reading currently, actually. So every day when I read that, I feel like I get a new sense of perspective on how I should run my business, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So every chapter I read, I get this level of just energy boosted into
Do you know what chapter you're on in Think and Grow Rich?
Yeah, I think I have it right here. I've just read chapter 10.
Okay, what's the title?
I read Persistence and the Power of the Mastermind.
Okay, so I would read that probably 15 more times. That'll
Okay.
take, because right now, guess who's part of your mastermind every time that you get upset and you don't feel supported?
My parents.
Mm-hmm. Would you want them in your mastermind?
No.
Then they're in your mastermind.
Okay.
Funny how you're reading that chapter and you're asking, well, I want them to support me. If this call didn't support you, would you get back here? If it didn't support you, if you didn't feel good, you wouldn't be here.
No.
But, well, they're my parents. Yeah, but they don't have to be part of your mastermind. Why do you keep bringing them into your mastermind? Put a criteria. Who's got to get into your mastermind? You can love them. Listen, you love us. We're not in your mastermind, but maybe we are.
Yeah.
And maybe we don't even know we got invited in to be in your mastermind because you take notes and you're like, ooh, that was cool what Book said. Oh, that's cool. I love what Britnee says with this, that. And I love when Rhonda, I can't even imagine how Rhonda comes up with these ideas and we're all part of your mastermind.
Yeah.
But then you bring in your quote mastermind, and it's your parents, and the rest of the stuff we said was right out the window. So just decide where they're at in your life. You can love them; they're your parents.
Yeah.
But don't keep bringing them into your mastermind, hoping that they're going to support you. Look at all of this stuff I learned this morning on this call from this guy from Texas. Oh my gosh, this is amazing! And then they go, pfft. It's like, oh, that was a waste. Shouldn't have done that because I need their support.
Yeah. But also I wanted to ask,
Mm-hmm.
how, I know it's not an overnight process. It's something that I have to kind of work on.
Mm-hmm.
But how do I stop myself from emotionally reacting to other people's statements? Like, someone could say something and I go from 0 to 100. There's no 50. There's no, let me just step back and look at what they're actually saying. What are their stories? Like, if someone tells me that, like, this is what you have to do, yes, I'll understand. But in that moment, I see red, and I know it's part of my past story.
Would you like to speak to somebody who is extraordinarily good at having gone from 0 to 200 and then back again?
Yeah.
Rhonda, could you have a conversation with them?
Good morning, Ann.
Good morning, Rhonda.
And as much as you think that little East Texas drawl doesn't go from 0 to 200, you crazy.
Goes from 0 to shotgun, like no time flat. So I'm sitting here listening to you, and what I keep hearing is, and the reason I hear it is because I've gone through it, and I still toy with it at times, but it's the addiction to approval.
Yes.
And I did it with my family, and it about killed me, and it crushed some relationships because I was so addicted to their approval. They didn't know that. They weren't giving me the approval that I wanted from them, so I just got seriously mad at them. And I would go from 0 to 450 degrees hot in no time flat. And then I would wonder why they were acting the way they were acting. And once I identified my source of approval, our relationships totally changed. I don't know that they changed.
Yeah.
I don't know that. I know I was doing a lot of work to change.
Okay.
But I know this, they're still consistent in a lot of behaviors, but my temperature doesn't change that quick anymore around them. And it's because their approval means nothing to me, and I can love them without their approval.
Okay.
And that's huge. If you sit with that for a little bit, that's huge, because the only thing I have control over is whether I react or whether I respond. And a reaction is tied to approval. A response is not tied to their approval. A response is the approval of myself.
Okay.
And addiction to approval masquerades in a lot of different ways. And it's an illusion that a lot of times you can't see on your own until you sit with it a while. And then when you sit with it a while, you can quickly go, oh my gosh, I was addicted to that approval. I was seeking their approval. But it takes a while. Sean probably took me longer than most. Sean had to sit with me quite a while to get me to understand addiction to approval. But once I did, it was totally a game changer.
Anybody ever hug a porcupine? Anybody ever hug a porcupine that's in heat? Listen, I'm a certified addiction to approval coach, not only a coach and a trainer. I can teach people that. So when I would say things to Rhonda and her head would snap my head off, I'd be like, okay. Well, now what am I supposed to do with that? I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, I made him research all his training and make sure he was up to speed. Trust me. He's good. He's good. He's up to speed. He's got all his continuing ed and everything just from right here.
Mm-hmm.
No, as you were talking, all I could hear was addiction to approval. Addiction to approval. When you were talking about the story you were laughing about, addiction to approval. At work, your parents, everything around is the only thing you have control over is you, and you have yet to seek your own approval. You seek approval outside yourself in every way possible. So it tells me that you're not settled inside yourself with who you are. And who you are isn't enough that you need somebody else to tell you who you are. When in reality, and you have everything you need. You're this amazing young woman who shows up on a phone call with a 7-hour time difference, who's willing to change and grow to make people around her better and give them a step in a total different direction for their whole legacy. That's who you are. You need to be telling yourself that. You don't need some girl from East Texas telling you that. You need to tell yourself that.
Yeah.
And for lack of better words, over here, we'd say, put your big girl panties on and come on, girl. You're that intelligent. You're that put together. You have all that you need. And when you stop seeking approval from those around you or from those you come in contact with, you will better serve them. And when you're in service, you will feel more complete.
Yeah.
Because your heart's a heart of service. That's why you're seeking so much approval.
Say that again.
Your heart is a heart of service. That's why you're seeking so much approval. So come to these phone calls and let us tell you you're doing a good job. But don't seek that for approval. Seek that for encouragement. There's a difference between being encouraged and being approved. So I had to sit with myself quite often And as I went through situations, I had to go, hang on a second, am I seeking their approval and not knowing it? And 9 times out of 10, I was. And I would have to do to myself like Sean did to you. You know, did David so-and-so approve me? No. Well, then why wasn't I worried about that? I don't know.
Right.
So I had a lot of internal dialogue I had to do with myself. I still do. I just do it much quicker now and without all the porcupine spines flying.
So how do I check on a day-to-day if I'm looking for approval? Because I know from my parents, because I've kind of identified that now. But if from work, like I know that I want the approval of my upline because I want to do a good job and I want to be able to do well for those kids and make sure that they have a great education. But how do I know that I'm seeking for approval from basic conversations? Like,
one way is if you react, if you find yourselves about to react,
yeah,
you probably need to sit back and ask yourself, hang on a second, why am I reacting instead of responding?
okay.
That's a big key indicator. Reaction is a big key indicator to, you know, is this potentially addiction to approval? Addiction to approval wears a lot of different masks and a lot of different cloaks. It's cloaked sometimes in, you take care of yourself, you take care of you, ain't nobody gonna take care of you. It's cloaked in all that kind of crap we have in our society.
Yeah.
Only you can handle. That's addiction to approval, because instead of going, you do you, you just, why does anybody have to do? Can't we just sit and enjoy? Let me give you an example. I went over to my mom's house the other day. My mom just lost her sister. We buried my aunt last week. And my mom's having some hard times. And I went over there the other day, and let me talk to you. Y'all think hugging a porcupine like me was hard. That day, it was like the cross between a pissed off bulldog and a mad porcupine. And this is the first time I'd seen her in a month. And me and my daughter were standing there, and she is griping and complaining about everything. Now, had I walked in there like I did a year ago, it would have been an all-out, fine, I'm leaving, I'm done. Because I would have sought her approval for me being there. I needed her to approve that. I needed her to notice that. I needed her to see me and notice me and approve me. But I was able to walk over there and walk in and go, hey, Mom. And she's griping and complaining and running around. And I could just sit. And inside myself, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to sit right here and enjoy. And I looked at her and I said, hey, Mom, how you doing? And she's griping and complaining. And I let her vent. And then I said, Mom, we're going to look at the sunshine. We're going to choose joy. We're going to do this. I know. And I said, Mom, what's really going on? And she turned to me and she goes, I lost my sister. And it was the sister I always wanted, and I never had her. See, they hadn't spoken about 15, 20 years because my aunt was a very bitter woman.
Wow.
But had I went for her approval, I would have compounded her anger and her hurt instead of being able to take it away. And I just looked at her and I said, Mom, I love you.
Wow.
And I was able to just sit with her and allow her to sit where she needed to sit. So I served her instead of wanting to be served. Wow. So it was a response, right, Joy? It was a response instead of a reaction. And you keep saying, wow, because that's your heart, Ann. I've never met you, only seen you in pictures, heard your beautiful voice with that amazing accent, but I can hear your heart. And given the chance to serve someone and make their life better, you would jump at that moment.
Yeah.
So this addiction to approval creeps in to keep you from that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. It creeps in, it takes the joy, and then you both sit there pissed off at each other, you know, wondering why the world sucks. When in reality, you can do what I did with my mom, which is I'm going to let her arrive. And I'm going to let her say what she needs to say to get those words out of her into the universe. I'm not going to pick up that vibration. I don't need that approval. And then I'm going to just slather her in love and joy. Does that help? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really given me a change of perception. Because for so long, I wasn't in the center of attention. That I've always, in every story, I would always be like, like, you know, what they did to me, what this person said about me, what this said about me, like, because no one else was, I felt like, maybe talking about me or seeing me in the light that I maybe sometimes saw myself. So now it's like, it's not just about me, it's what I could do for them.
Well, and you don't need them to approve your feeling.
Exactly.
You don't need their approval.
Yeah. I don't need them to see me or notice me. I notice me. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Wow. Thank you, Rhonda.
Congratulations. That was huge.
That was huge. Wow. Week is going to be amazing. Thank you.
I love you.
I love you too. Thank you, Sean.
You bet. Hey, I'm just the coach over here. You go in and play. You go play that position. But this is why we need people in our life. Because if you listen back, Ron said the same thing I said. You know why I'm okay with Rhonda saying it and you getting it? Because you got it. This is about, my daddy always said, any job get done if it doesn't matter who gets the credit. Sometimes we need to hear it. That's why we still read the same Bible for the most part, 2,000 years later. Somebody's going to give us an interpretation that finally we go, now I get it. This is you awakening to you. So you done good. Dalia, last question, and then because I'm already 13 minutes late for a call, but I want to hear something's telling me you got your hand raised.
Good morning. Thank you.
Oh, Dalia. Why couldn't I say that right? Good morning, Dalia.
Good morning. Thank you so much. My question is, oh, I had a blank. Okay, so to make it simple and doable for us, something that I've heard all along, and it was totally dissected and explained in the examples with the metaphor and with the fact of attention seeking. If we listen to our prospects, right, to exactly to what they're trying to tell us,
right,
and we focus on their pain or concerns, and we repeat in short phrases their intention coming from them to us, and we take the focus of our ego being beaten down, which is something that I do, like the girl that just spoke, God bless her. God bless her 100 times, and you too, and both of you, because I do that. I go to me, seeker, attention seeker. So if I take the focus totally off my ego and go in service to listen to them and interpret their pain or concern, then I will be serving, and then I will make that heart connection. Is that right?
Yes. And the challenge is, though, is that the key is to listen. Not Covey says, listen with the intent to respond. The challenge is when you're having your first conversations with somebody, what they are telling you is their issue, ain't their issue.
The pink elephant.
Yes. So the challenge is that can you ask another question that says, I hear what you're saying. Say that to me in another way. Because when we're new to this process, because that's what this is, it's a process. When we're new to it, sometimes people will throw up the red herring. They'll throw up something that seems like it's an issue, but it's not the issue, right? This issue that Ann was sharing about, it would be awesome if my parents helped me. Of course, came out to be, well, why do I need anybody's approval?
Absolutely.
Same timeline, but two total different focus points. Them, or maybe it's on me. So most people will have an issue that's outside, but as Larry Thompson says, whenever you point the finger out that way, 3 fingers are pointing back. So the issue is always inside, right? You want it, the best way out of your problem is to go in. Most people try to fix the outside problem. So yeah, if you just have a conversation and say, here's the thing. Listen, if I was a therapist, if I was looking to get clients, do you realize that after every situation that I help you all with, I could say, so when would you like to get started with my hourly rate? It's $2.50 an hour. And because you knew you couldn't come back to this call tomorrow, you'd all be signing up going, oh my God, for $250, he fixed that issue I haven't been able to fix in years. How's he able to do that in such a short time? Because the issue is never really what you're talking about. So Delia, as you're having conversations with people, say, if that problem got fixed, if you were able to solve that issue, would that be enough? And what you'll usually find is, no, that wouldn't be enough. There's more. My health isn't that good. Well, if we solve that issue, if you got that solved, and I don't know whether it's me or not, but if you could get that solved, would that be all you want solved? No, I'd like this, this, and this. Okay, so that you start to peel the onion, as we say, right?
Awesome. Because I would give up on the first or second no.
Right.
And then I would get defensive, put on my gloves, and beat them down.
Yep. And you're good at it. You're great at.
I would put all that anger in my conversation and beat them down, which is not what I wanted to do to begin with.
No, because you need to be justified.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you too, both of you. Bye.
There you go, folks. I appreciate y'all. I hope you have an amazing day. We get to do this again tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. I appreciate y'all. I'm Sean Murphy, founder of Mental Profits, and I'll see y'all where? At the next event. Y'all send some love to each other.
Bye, y'all. Love y'all.
Bye, guys. I love you.
Thank you so much. See y'all. Love you.
Love you, my Misfit family. Everyone have a blessed day.
Have a good day.
Great day.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Everybody have a
Bye,
blessed
y'all.
day.
Bye for now.
Misfits.
Bye, Misfits.
Love